My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. What a night! What a night! I'm sorry this video is probably coming out a little late, but we went to the match. I had a bunch of people over at the house last night, and we were up until quite late talking about the match, etc. But look, this is a match that was very, very heated going into it. On the back of an interview with Lamine Yamal, he was sort of talking smack, and I think created a lot of tension ahead of this one, but this was an absolute ass-kicking, and the scoreline does not reflect what we saw on the pitch. This was an absolute thorough ass-kicking. This should have been, 5-1, 4-0, something along those lines, if not for a little bit of bad luck, and of course the intervention of the refs who need forcibly to disallow goals every single time, every single match. This was a statement that we needed to make. This was a confidence boost that I think changes so many things. We are in a much better place on the back of this victory. But this was a real statement, like I say, an ass-kicking. We dominated this match. The last 30 minutes, Barca had control of the ball, but did absolutely nothing with it. So let me give you guys my thoughts and opinions about the match itself, some takeaways, and we can discuss players as well. But this was a phenomenal victory, and just couldn't be happier. All right, thanks for joining me. Let me give you my thoughts. Let's get started. Welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the match last night, and let's start talking about the lineup. Now, this is the lineup that Xabi Alonso came out with. This was a 4-4-2, very different than what we've been seeing so far, but I think made a lot of sense. I think that what he wanted to do by including that fourth midfielder is to really pack the middle of the pitch, to make sure that we're putting a lot of pressure on the ball. And I think that in difficult matches, this is, I think, a strategy that makes a lot of sense, because I think Camavinga's presence was crucial in the middle of the pitch, and it worked. I think we dominated the middle of the pitch. So it was a 4-4-2. He came out with Courtois, Carreras on the left, Fede as right back once again, Huijsen and Militao as center backs. And then he had the four midfielders, Tchouaméni, Camavinga in a sort of double pivot, and then Arda and Juve in the more creative aspects of play in the middle of the pitch. And then, of course, up front, Vini and Kylian. Like I say, this is not a lineup that we see very often, but I think a lineup that makes a lot of sense when you're playing against difficult teams, and teams that are going to have a lot of possession, where you really want to put pressure on the ball and have an extra body in the middle of the pitch. I think it made a lot of sense. I think Xabi got it right in terms of the original lineup. Now, look, in terms of the match itself, the first half was just total domination, absolute domination from beginning to end, and the scoreline does not tell us what really happened on the pitch. In the second minute, we had already in the second minute the penalty on Vini, which was later taken back. And look at this video, guy. You just look at this video, and you tell me if Lamine touches the ball. Now, it's very obvious to me that Lamine does not touch the ball. He puts his foot forward and interrupts a player who is about to kick the ball. So basically, you're kicking the foot of a player that's about to kick the ball, and that's a penalty because he does not make any contact with the ball. So I have no idea how this was reversed. The refs have access to the same camera angles that we all do. I have no idea why this was taken back. This should have been a penalty. But it was a sign of things to come. In the 11th minute, again, the refs, incredible goal by Kylian, a wonderful volley from distance, and this was again magically ruled offside by the tiniest of millimeters. And isn't it weird how every time Real Madrid plays, there's two goals disallowed on Kylian by a millimeter that none of us really see. I mean, look at this picture. This was, delivered 10 minutes after the play, and it's completely forged. This is completely adulterated, that nobody believes. This is not even the body, the positions of the bodies when they drew the line. This is, the guys in the bar booth basically do whatever they want. I believe that this was a fair goal. I think he was in line. And it's just way too suspicious that how many goals is Kylian disallowed by margins that none of us seem to see, but that this machine seems to capture. It's all really counterintuitive. Now, I can tell you that in the Bernabeu, every time we score, we're traumatized now. We're traumatized. Real Madrid scores, and we all celebrate, but we immediately look at the ref because we know how many goals are disallowed. It's absolutely insane. But anyway, nothing new. Unfortunately, something we're still living with. Okay, in the 21st minute, we finally had the goal. Wonderful goal by Kylian. This was an incredible play by Jude. When he receives the ball, the way that he protects the ball and spins away from his defender and finds the space to push forward and make that absolutely perfect pass and the timing of the pass was incredible to Kylian, who of course finished wonderfully. So a fantastic play by Jude, who I think had an amazing match, and a great goal by Kylian, who is still in absolutely exceptional form. In the 37th minute, we had the mistake by Arda Güler that caused the 1-1 and the Barça goal. Now, Arda has been wonderful, and he's been playing so well and so consistently. This was a big mistake. There are some parts in the pitch where you do not play with possession. You do not risk the ball when you're that close to your own box. When you're surrounded by Barça players, that is not a time to try to dribble out of trouble. It's a time to move the ball quickly and pass it and keep the ball safe. This was a terrible mistake. I think, we have to forgive him. He's human. Players make mistakes from time to time. I think it sort of affected him, and the few minutes afterwards, you could tell he was really affected by it. But this was just a mistake. These things happen. But again, the 1-1 just did not in any way reflect what we were seeing on the pitch. Real Madrid was finding space, pressing the ball, creating chances. Barça looked really suffocated. Our level of intensity in the first half was really noteworthy. We played with an extraordinary, we never played the entirety of last season. We didn't play a single match with this level of intensity. And one thing that I can tell you Xavi has accomplished is getting these players to really, really sort of turn up the volume in terms of physical intensity and commitment. Okay, in the 43rd minute, we had the goal by Jude, who had a spectacular match all around, just sort of right place, right time. When Jude plays that sort of number 10 position, when he plays in the middle of the pitch and he's allowed to move up into that channel, that middle channel, he's extremely, extremely effective. This is a player that knows how to finish. When Jude is in the box, he's a very dangerous player. And when he plays this position that he played last night, it allows him to get into the box and to be opportunistic and to be in the right place at the right time. I think this was a very, very good strategic decision by Xavi to give Jude that middle channel and the freedom to get into the box. So good goal by Jude. Again, right place in the right time. Now in the 45th minute, we had another disallowed goal. This one I think maybe did look offside, so I won't criticize it too much. And that's how the first half ended. Now, in terms of the second half, in the 50th minute, so very early on, we had the penalty miss by Kylian. This was, again, a play provoked by Jude. It hit the hand of the Barça defender, I think, quite visibly. I don't think anybody would argue that. But, in terms of how the penalty was struck, I think it wasn't bad. I think, it was high, which I always like to see. I don't like low penalties, especially slow and low. This one, I think had enough power and it was high enough, but it was a bit too centered. It was just too central. I think if that ball had gone a bit closer to the post or up in the corner, the goalkeeper wouldn't have reached it. But this was a very good save. We have to give their goalkeeper credit. Very good save, but an unfortunate miss by Kylian. That I think a 3-1 scoreline would have been much more representative of what we were watching on the pitch, because 2-1 really doesn't tell the story. Okay, in the 65th minute, we had our first change, Arda with Arda Güler coming off. In the 67th minute, we had another goal by Jude, and this one again disallowed. This is the third disallowed goal in the match. In the 71st minute, Vini and Fede came off. Rodrigo and Carvajal came in. Now, it is, I have to say, I don't think that it was a wise decision to take Vini off in the 71st minute. I think that Vini was one of our most impactful players. He was just wreaking havoc. He was absolutely decimating Barça. He was running through the middle of the pitch, running on the wing. He was causing so much trouble. I think that Vini still had some gas in the tank. I don't think it's a substitution I would have made. However, I do have to say that I'm very disappointed with Vini's attitude on the way out. I think that this is a professional player, and there's no room for temper tantrums if you're being substituted. I think that that is a display of disrespect, not only to the coach, who is your boss, and it is your job to do what you're told, but it's also disrespectful to your colleague coming in to substitute you. In this case, Rodrigo. It's disrespectful because if you behave this way, what you're suggesting is that the person coming in isn't going to do as good a job as you. And I think it's a little bit insulting. I think Vini needs to check his attitude. I think he had a wonderful game, and we have to separate the football aspect from this, from the attitude. I think it was very disappointing the way Vini behaved. In any case, that was a substitution that I found a little bit questionable. Now, the last 20 minutes were all sort of Barca, but it was completely harmless possession. Okay, like Barca loves these long spells of short passes, but it's windshield wiper football. It doesn't create danger. It's completely harmless, and I just don't think, I think that the illusion, possession is a very misleading statistic in football, and if you look at what happened in the second half yesterday, that's exactly what I mean. I mean, Barca had plenty of possession, but they just never looked threatening at any point. It was sort of harmless possession. Now, in the 90th minute, we had more changes. Jude and Kylian came off. Ceballos and Gonzalo came in. I think it's interesting. At this point, I think we need to mention, once again, poor Enrique. I mean, Enrique has not played a single minute, and it just doesn't look like Xavi's going to give him any opportunities at all. We need to underline that, and don't be surprised if he leaves in the winter transfer window on loan. Okay, in the 90th minute, the refs added 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Now, where the hell do you get 9 minutes? But I'll tell you why they gave 9 minutes, because Barca was losing. If Barca had been winning, they would have given 2 minutes. This is, unfortunately, what we've been watching for decades, and it's just so irritating. But anyway, they added 9 minutes. In the 94th minute, actually, Rodrigo could have scored, had a very good chance, but just struck the ball too soft. And then in the 99th minute, you had the second yellow on Pedri, who actually should have received the second yellow card earlier than that, but he got a red card. I think it was just the frustration. Pedri, is a wonderful player, but he just had absolutely nothing going on last night. He was just completely unable to dominate the middle of the pitch, and I think that second yellow was just probably just frustration. So look, in terms of takeaways, broad takeaways, look, number one, this was an ass-kicking. The scoreline does not tell us what happened on the pitch. This should have been 4-5-1, something like that. It was an ass kicking. That's point number one. Point number two, this is a team that plays with much greater intensity than last year. Okay, I don't recall a single match last year that in terms of intensity compared with our first half last night. Xavi is definitely putting pressure on these players to push themselves physically. It's very, very visible that he's getting that message across, because the players, again, are playing with much more intensity than we saw all of last year. Now, they can't always sustain it at a certain level, and so you do see a decline in the second half. But to come out with that level of aggressiveness sends a great message. So I think I'm very happy in that respect. Okay, point number three. I think that psychologically this is incredibly important for us, with a view to especially the match in Anfield against Liverpool. I think that if you had asked me a week or two ago, how I felt about that match, I was very worried. I actually think we can win this match now. I do think that the confidence level, matches like last night have a very important psychological effect on the players, and it really does give them the confidence and the belief and the morale, and it makes a huge difference. I think mentally we're in a much better place, and I think our chances in Anfield are much better on the back of the match last night, just psychologically. Okay, takeaway number 4. I think that this 4-4-2 is something that we're going to use in difficult matches. I think that this is something that is going to be recurrent. I think that when we play against very thorny teams, for example in Anfield, don't be surprised to see that fourth midfielder. And Camavinga did an excellent job last night and just took up so much space. He was so present in the middle of the pitch. He brings so much speed and dynamism. It just contributes so much in the middle of the pitch. I think that in difficult matches, one of the takeaways is that this is a formation that we can use very effectively for the more difficult matches going forward. Okay, takeaway number 5, I would say that this team is improving. I think that this team is kind of gelling little by little. I think I have a feeling that we can win things. I think that we can win La Liga, and I think that we're going to be a very, very solid contender for the Champions League. So I see that we kept winning, but kind of weren't very convincing game after game. But I think last night's performance was a lot more resounding, and I think gives me a lot more confidence that we can win things this year. Okay, takeaway number 6. Arda and Jude, when you play these two players in the middle of the pitch, it works. Okay, now both of these players are perfectly capable of playing the number 8 position or the number 10 position. But if you recall what Ancelotti did last year, he would play Jude on the left wing and Arda on the right wing, and that was an absolute waste of their attributes because these are players that need 360 space to maneuver because they're very good on the ball, they're very good with both feet, and they need space. And when you confine players like this to the wing, I think you're making a critical mistake. The fact that Arda and Jude are playing in the middle of the pitch as interior midfielders is making a world of difference in terms of our creativity and bringing out the best in these players. That is absolutely key. I think whether you want to play one as a 10 or an 8, I think that both players are capable of playing either. So if you want Jude further up and maybe out of that a little bit further back or even switch those, I think both players are capable of playing those positions. But the key is that they're playing in the inside of the pitch and the difference in terms of their performance is massive because you're giving the players more scope to use their vision, to use their skill, to use their technique and their vision. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, takeaway number 7. I think Barca's in a bit of trouble. I think Barca's in trouble. This is a team that, they got decimated by PSG. They got decimated by Sevilla. They sort of eked out very, sort of last-minute hectic victories against very modest, Girona and modest teams like this. This is not a convincing Barca. This has nothing to do with the Barca of last season. I think this is a team that looks a little bit frail. I think, it's easy to get behind that defensive line. Teams have been doing it all season. I think defensively they're not well organized at all. Something is definitely different relative to last year. Lamine, of course, is, a lot of talk and a lot of bravado, but, he runs the risk of becoming a Neymar, being a player that is incredibly skillful, that will do 2 or 3 really amazing things in a match, but will not be the consistent professional that decides tournaments year after year. I think Lamine has to be careful with his private life. A lot of the entourage surrounding him is, he's always partying and he's either, with this chick or that chick. He always seems to, be, distracted. He also talks a lot. That interview was totally out of place. The way he was talking about Real Madrid, it was just very disrespectful. That somebody needs to tell this kid to get his head in order because Barca risks losing a great talent just by virtue of his conduct. So I think Barca is in trouble. I don't see them. They're going to get an enormous amount of help from the refs now. Especially after last night. Get ready. The refs are really going to turn it on and try to help them and hurt us as much as possible. But this does not look like a convincing team at all. Okay, those are the sort of broad takeaways in terms of the match. Now, let me give you my thoughts on players individually. And again, I love hearing your opinions in the comment section. So definitely, let me know what you think. Okay, Courtois, I would say probably a 6. He didn't have a lot of work. I mean, it's remarkable how little football Barca created last night. They created fuck all. I mean, they did very, very little. Courtois had very little work. But in the times that he did have to intervene, mostly in aerial plays, he was solid. So I would say, I don't know, I'd probably give him a 6 or something like that. Okay, Carreras. I thought Carreras was okay. I think maybe give him a 7 or something like that. He did lose a couple of balls. He looked a little bit tentative in the early minutes, but I think got into the game as the game went on. I do think that we have to give him credit for. Lamine did get away from him on a couple of occasions, but then again, Lamine is an exceptional player. But I think overall, I think Carreras did a good job of containing him defensively. Didn't participate as much in attack, but I think it's because he had to save all his energy for defensive duties, and I think that was the right thing to do. So I think Carreras had a decent match, maybe a 7. Huijsen, I'd say probably a 7 as well. He was, pretty good. I think he looked a little bit shy in the first few minutes, looked a little bit, a little bit nervous in possession the first few minutes. But as the game went on, he also, he seemed to improve, and I think overall played a pretty good game. He's always lifting his head, looking to make a good pass or a switch of play. So he's very alert and likes to sort of push the ball forward immediately. I love that sense of urgency that Huijsen injects into our attack. I think he had a pretty good game. I think overall something like a 7 would be fair. Okay, Militao was excellent. I'd give him an 8. I don't know, maybe even a 9. I don't know, an 8 or 9. I thought he was absolutely excellent. I am blown away by how this player has been able to recover. I am seriously, the character that this guy must have to come after 2 knee operations as serious as the ones he had, to spend an entire year in rehab and like another few months in rehab, and to come back and to be in this form and to play this well is absolutely extraordinary. The last 2-3 matches, Militao has been unbelievably good, and he looks like the player before the injury. He really does. I think at the moment Militao is just playing top shelf football. Probably one of the best central defenders in the world as we speak. Okay, Fede was pretty good, maybe another 7. I think he was better in the first half. I think in the second half you started to see him kind of fizzle out. I think a lot of that just has to do with fatigue. But he was pretty good. He neutralized Rashford, kept Rashford very much under control. Again, he didn't go forward too much because I think he was just very focused on marking his man and making sure that nobody got behind him. So that took away from his ability to push forward and use that wonderful right foot. But I think he played a very responsible match, a good, solid match. Again, started well and kind of declined a bit in the second half, but I think Fede was quite solid. Okay, Tchouaméni was once again insane. I don't know what's happened to Tchouaméni. I would give him a 9. I think he had a spectacular match. I don't know what's going on with Tchouaméni. He's having an incredible season. He's an 8 or a 9 virtually every single match. His command in that pivot position, he's winning challenges, winning balls. He's exiting with the ball beautifully, quickly. He's just in the right place at the right time. His timing is good. He's having a wonderful season, and I think Xavi has really managed to get the best out of this player. There are a few players that Xavi has really managed to improve under his command, and Tchouaméni is one of them. He's having a spectacular season. Okay, Camavinga, I think Camavinga in the first half was just wonderful. I would give him maybe an 8. He brings so much energy, so much mobility, so much energy to our press and to our play. He's a player that takes up an enormous amount of space, runs a hell of a lot, chases the ball. He's the guy's like a horse. I mean, his physique. I'm actually wearing Camavinga as we speak. I bought this one last year. Camavinga is just, I think, a wonderful contribution to that midfield. He brings so much in terms of pressing the ball and recovering balls. I think, our ability to command the midfield yesterday had a lot to do with Camavinga and his presence. He has incredible elasticity. This is a player that can steal a ball from 4 meters away. I don't know. He's like, his legs are made of like, gummy or like jello or something. I don't know how he does it, but he's just a spectacular player. And I'm so happy that he's going to be participating because I think he brings so much to our play, especially in the tricky matches where we need that fourth body in the midfield. Okay, Arda Güler, probably, I would say a little bit disappointing just because we're so used to him playing so well. Like, he's been playing so well, so consistently all season. I think that yesterday he was a little bit, I would say off, just a little bit less present. And I think that the part of the reason for that is that we had that fourth midfielder. So I think our midfield was a little bit cluttered. So I think Arda stood out a little bit less. So he was getting less of the ball. He was creating less of the play. So I think, he had a sort of okay match. And then, he had the horrible mistake in the Barca goal, which is something that a player of his age, this is good for him. This will teach him. He needs to learn these things. There are parts of the pitch that you do not risk the ball. But I think he tried his best. It was just one of those games where he wasn't getting the ball that much, and things weren't really happening. So I don't know. I'd give him maybe a 5 or a 6. I think his performance was sort of okay, mediocre, or so. I do understand his substitution. I think that change made a lot of sense to me at the time that it did. Okay, Jude. I don't know. I mean, I got to give this guy either a 10 or a 9 or something insane. I thought he had an incredible match. Like, Jude is a player that I love. You guys that have followed me for a while, you know how much I love this player. The combination of his physical strength and his technique on the ball is just so rare. He's a player that has the elegance and the symmetry and the balance of a Zidane with the exquisite technique of a Zizou, but he has this extra strength and this body and this muscle, great vision. Look, he scored a goal, he provided an assist, he provoked a penalty. Jude, it was a clinic. He put on a clinic, and he reminded us, you got to give the guy a break. The guy had a really bad operation, and he had to recover. So, but in my mind, nothing had changed. Jude remains one of the exceptional players in the world. I think this is one of the finest players in the world. Certainly, in my mind, top 3. He's an extraordinary player, and I think had an unbelievable match. And I couldn't be happier to see him back in form. Okay, Vini. Vini, I would probably give him an 8. He wreaked havoc on that left-hand side. He was creating, he was a nightmare. He was driving them crazy. Like they were trying to stop him pulling his shirt in the middle of the pitch. Then he'd go off to the wing and drive them completely crazy. Koundé's head was spinning all night. I felt like Koundé was going to cry at one point. Vini was driving him absolutely crazy. Now, that said, I don't think that he should have been subbed when he was subbed in the 71st minute. I think Vini still had plenty of gas in the tank, and he was playing very well. I don't agree with the substitution, but I do not agree with his attitude when he was subbed, and that's something that this kid needs to correct. All of this nonsense needs to stop. Vini needs to just focus and stop with these antics. But in terms of pure play, I'm going to have to give him an 8 because he was critical and he was fantastic on that left wing. Okay, Kylian. Probably a 7 or an 8. He had a good game, good mobility. Goals disallowed, but it's just every game he just has so many goals disallowed. It's just getting ridiculous. And they make up these little margins. Like nobody believes this VAR crap. Nobody believes that these drawings have anything to do with reality. But anyway, I think he played well. Good mobility. His finishing is still excellent. That volley in the first half that was disallowed is just a shame because that was an absolutely stunning volley. Of course, he missed the penalty. We have to keep that in mind as well. I think he could have shot it a little better. He could have hit that a little bit closer to the post. But I think overall Mbappe had a good performance, a sort of 7.5 type of performance. Okay, look, those are my thoughts on the match, some of the takeaways, etc. Like I say, I would love to. By the way, I hope you enjoyed the footage of the atmosphere around here. Is just incredible in these big matches. It's so cool. I'm going to try to bring you guys more of those type of clips because I want you guys to kind of feel and breathe the atmosphere here. But anyway, thanks for joining me as always. I love you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for joining me, and as always and forever, a la Madrid.